And we have to take our fiery principle, the Purusha, and let it combine and sizzle and accumulate with the water so that it produces the solar bodies, the little bodies within. This is the sun in the tarot card, the alchemical child. We have to give birth or become born again within. Now we know Alvin Boy Kuhn says that the first death of the soul, we bite of the tree of knowledge, good and evil, God says you will surely die. And that death was the degradation of the soul into a physical matrix womb. Now the second death is when we die physically and become resurrected into the new realm of being with all of our evaporated molecular chemical system that we've chosen to evaporate. Everyone has different levels of this. This is why if you're feeling low in alchemical fire, it's good to take to certain abstinences and certain regimes to try to tame and temper those lower natures to regenerate those energies so that you have an uptake of energy up the spinal column. So that could be pranayama, just like the one we just taught, the pour breath. For 10 minutes, pretend there's holes all over your body like a sponge. And breathe not only from your lungs, but pretend that you're breathing in from all of your bones, all of the canals of your bones. You're breathing 360 degrees into them. An ancient Taoist practice to help regenerate on the bone level. The sexual energy is produced from the bone marrow, so when we regenerate the bone, we're giving our strength to the sexual energy, which must be transmuted. That raw instinctual energy, which is in the cauldron, becomes vaporized by the Purusha and slowly starts creating that higher being, where that lust is transmuted into love, where the greed is transmuted into charity, where all the different little aggregates and psychological disorders are all perfected. Jesus goes up into the temple and is arguing with the doctors and the lawyers and telling them to convert. Is the Christic atoms communicating with the more negative animalistic atoms and transmuting them and telling them to transform into their higher nature. This is why as people get older and are doing good habits and trying to be the best they can and have a sense of purpose, self-improvement, are connected with nature, connected with the inner still small voice within, they gradually get better and start to not be so nullified by the material sensations and pleasures and stop hankering, start forgiving more as they become more subtle. And Alvin Boy Kuhn says we know that water goes downward and that fire or heat makes it rise. So that's how the initiates do that, by going down into the watery nature of the essential nature. That water flows down, but when activating the fire within ourselves, those energies rise up. So the inner, like a good way to activate the solar plexus is, the mantra, which is the fire center, would be ooh, or imagining rays entering into the solar plexus. Simply having your feet on the ground barefoot and then holding your palms up to the sun and having a sense of reverence. If you don't have a sense of reverence and respect and more of a sense of wonderment, kind of like making your child, like your mind, like the mind of a child, so that you have this sense of openness, wonderment, and amazement, that will also help increase that fire. And then, of course, you have I believe the breath of fire, which is when you exhale, you push your stomach in, and when you inhale, your stomach comes out. But the inhale is not forced. Only the exhale is. So it would be breathing through your nose, pushing out. Eyes always a little bit cross-eyed to hear. Tongue always behind the teeth. Always two fingers touching. And then squeeze the perineum muscle slightly. I say do 100 a day. Don't do it if you're not staying chaste, because pranayama without sexual energy, according to Ramakrishna's wife, is destructive to the nervous system. So make sure you have gas in the tank. And essentially that's how pranayama works. Pranayama in and of itself is not going to produce enlightenment. Pranayama, breathing exercises in and of themselves, will never actually produce spiritual nature unless it's combined with the heat. So there has to be an accumulation of heat within the body. That temperature rises the spiritual thermometer, and each vertebrae that it rises up the spine, you overcome years and years of genealogical, karmic pool, animalistic, all kinds of things are overcome. So each vertebrae activates a purification method. That's why there's 33 vertebrae, 33 years of the life of Jesus, and then the Mason has the 33 degrees, all accumulating to that one point. So the Judeo-Christian scriptures, the Bible, do not contain material elaborating. Oh yeah, this is about the Red Sea. Sorry about that. There we go. We have all the legends of fire flaming forth out of the mouth or the nostrils of God, consuming his enemies. This is often poeticized as the wrath of God, devastating all things in Deuteronomy. We find the deity telling of the awful power of his mind energy. My wrath has flared up, flaming to the nether world itself, burning up the earth and all it bears, setting the roots of hills ablaze. And again from Sinai came the eternal blazing, and fire from the south. We remember how this presence on Mount Sinai was accompanied by lightning, smoke, and flame. The 7 golden candles of Revelation typify the 7 rays of the divine emanation as it poured forth to create a 7-branched tree of life. The Old English ritual of burning the Yule log on the hearth was to symbolize the lightening up and the final transfiguration of the natural body and nature of man by transforming power of the divine flame of spirit. The rope binding Samson's arms, when the spirit of the eternal inspired him nightly, became like wax that has caught fire. The bonds melted off his hands. The Egyptians called the watery body of man the pool of the double fire, the dark, murky, smoky, smudgy fires of the low sensualities, and the pure, clear, beautiful flame of compassion and love. The lower flares of the animal passions, it needs hardly be pointed out, where the fires of hell are. Happily, no one needed fear the prospect of being tortured in fires of post-mortem Hades, as we are all living in hell we will ever experience right here on earth. That fire in our blood is all the hell we will ever have to dread, but we had better dread it now. All we need to do is transmute those fires that burn in the blood with smudge, soot, and smoke into the pure flames of the beauteous life, for wickedness burneth as a fire. It shall devour the briars and thorns, and shall kindle in the thickets of the forest. These are the coarse underbrush of the hatreds, greeds, and evil motives of our lives. If reason and discipline will not burn them out, pain eventually will. Greek philosopher Heraclitus says man is a portion of cosmic fire, imprisoned in a body of earth and water. John the Baptist said that whereas he will give us the lower baptism of earth and water, the Christ coming after him will baptize us with holy air and with fire. Jesus said, I come to scatter fire upon the earth. Also I beheld Satan like lightning fall from heaven. All these are references to the angelic host, God's own sons, whom the Father dispatched to earth to do his work with his earthly children. He hath made angels messengers and his ministers a flame of fire. Spirit was universally symbolized by the elements of fire, as was mind by air, emotions by water, and sensation by earth. Our souls are sparks of the divine flame. And because our sparks are part of the divine flame, we have the direct ability to, within 1 second of choice and decision, to overcome and triumph, just like the sun resurrects from that dreadful winter and starts renewing in the spring. And then all of those spiritual flowers will blossom in our brains again, because the spiritual spring takes place in the brain when the brain cells are reactivated. Now, probably best way to do this is through just trying to be a better person, transmute your sexual energy, find a partner that you love. If you're single, try to take up a sport, try to take up a discipline, try to learn an instrument, try to do more spinal column breathing. If anyone has any questions about any exercise or wants me to walk through a specific exercise during these lessons or wants to consult with me on their own time, there's this on through the services feature, then I can, or even now through right here while we're talking, we can go through exercises, we can talk about meditations, we could talk about particularities. So anyone has any questions there, we can, because a lot of exercises are very diverse and kind of depending on your temperament and what exactly your habits and what you're doing, you know, certain exercises that are good for someone might not be good for someone else, and you have to find out the correct temperament. Imprisoned. So there's a question that says, when we say imprisoned in matter as in a demiurgic sense, if yes, then in essence astrology is a trap, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't learn about our individual holding cell as we do here. Yes, but it's a natural imprisonment. It's not, there's not a cosmic force that is out there saying, like, you know, that wants to imprison us. It's a natural thing that occurs. The subtle densifies and becomes dense, just like water becomes an ice cube, and then the sun purifies the ice cube, becomes water, becomes vapor. That vapor is now more clean than it was before, and it has more knowledge if it was a person. So it's not a creepy demiurge that's enslaving us here on purpose. It's actually just nature. In fact, the body's not even connected to the soul. We're not trapped. If you find your true self, we'll find that we're actually not even manifested here in the physical realm. Our true sense of being is the black star, the black central Krishna. Krishna's not even here in this physical realm. He's beyond the material element. So I think that the Gnostics gave us this sense, like, you know, I've heard a lot of that Earth isn't an asylum for souls. There is the descent, but I think that it's in the soul's nature to descend, and the body is a prison. But Alvin Boy Kuhn tried to make it very clear that the should be taken in a figurative sense. The ancient philosophers wrote in a way that's very poetic and theatrical to produce epiphanies. And these small epiphanies are supposed to help you realize your true self, which to make us excited. Like, for example, he said, the true hell we experience is the blood and the passions and stuff. It's been pretty bad, but I think it's been okay. You know, like, we got this. You know, we're all okay. Like, we're in prison, but we're going to wake up tomorrow. And a lot of, like, if we focus on Earth as simply a prison and not more of a learning school, that I think that then we'll want to not utilize this realm. The ancient Gnostics thought that procreation was evil, and that bringing a soul from the higher dimensions down was a sense of enslavement. So this is why that they said that practicing sex that would produce children was evil. So they would practice all other kinds of sexual things that would not produce children, thinking that it was correct. But they saw life as a prison, and these have always been the two paths. Some say, is the God of the Old Testament in the Garden of Eden, is he just an evil person and the snake is actually the savior? I think it's all just one. I think it's just one person playing all parts. I think it all plays these different parts, and I believe the serpent's the energy, the tempting energy that brings us into knowledge of our separate self, of creation and non-created. You know, there's the creature aspect of our body, and then there's the internal being. So, Derek says, does the physical oil turn into a gas when risen? I believe that it starts turning into a gas lower or down into the 3 lower chakras as the heat accumulates. That vapor starts going up the central canal, and that's how the brain gets seminized, not through the physical fluid itself, but the sexual energy must nourish the spinal column, and globules start forming, oil globules. These oil globules, once ignited, that supreme fire, then an actual fire ascends up the spinal column rather than a vapor. That vapor gets lit, and you become like, you'll be talking in tongues, and probably activate your seventh body, and probably leave the physical realm. Spontaneously combust, resurrect. You dip. There's a lot of ancient masters left before their time. Spontaneously. Some say because you can only go to the sixth chakra here in the physical realm. The seventh chakra activated would make you someone that could be an ascended form that could only communicate by descending into spiritual bodies. That's why Thomas H. Burgoyne's teacher in Illuminated Brahmanism said that any ancient master or son of God or anyone like that would never come in a physical form, reincarnated in a little baby. They would just come in their translucent body, appear and disappear to whoever they need to. They don't need to be part of anything. So there are people that are beyond us, demigods, higher beings, beyond the ice wall, higher dimensions, different root races. So another way to ignite this fire is to just try to surge your adrenal gland. You should be able to kind of like know how to spark yourself up. You should get in the zone. Learn how to get in the zone. Like ninjas use hand signs to get in the zone before they focus on their internal alchemical product. Try to get in the zone by letting your eyes go 40-degree angle. Go straight into alpha state. Work from that higher state of consciousness. Do the shepherd's crook. Always bring the energy flow. And then down. Purify. Hold the staff in the center. Like, you always see the spiritual, they hold the staff. The staff is the central spinal column that you have to, when it means holding it, it means place your conscious attention there. And then you can move about and have control over all of your nervous systems. That we don't have to be like, we can extinguish a desire or a habit. We just choose not to. If we're infected in the mind, we'll still pull out negative crap. We'll still end up doing negative things because even if we have a well-trained body, we have to train the mind. And that's through the Hermetic practices of just self-observation, self-remembering, practicing Vedanta and self-inquiry, which is to basically turn the light around. The ancient Taoists said the ancient practice of turning the light around. What that means is your consciousness that is going outward, simply turn the spotlight inward. This is already going to create a conscious center and a point of evaporation. You need to create that little sun within you to create a central point of evaporating the chemistry of the body. So that when you die, all your fluids don't just go. You got to evaporate some. Yeah, you're an eternal being. You'll always exist, but you're here to conquer. You don't want to lose your treasure. The treasure's in the body. So the alchemical consequences to extract the experience, extract the gnosis and the knowledge from wandering in the Red Sea. We've across the Red Sea. The body is the Red Sea. The Red Sea is your blood. It's not an ocean in the physical world. So when Moses parts the Red Sea, or when we allow that inner fire aspect to evaporate that, then we can actually take some of this and encapsulate it and form it into a higher archetype in the higher planes. So there's a comment here. It says on DMT, it was as if I could control that fire and energy flow. Yes, because when you tap into that pineal gland or the observer, then you should be able to control that fire. A good way to control that fire is to practice the microcosmic orbit. These are not permanent exercises. I believe that most of these exercises, once they create the cure or create the connection within, can be discarded. But a good way to reestablish that energy, to play with energy, is to start trying to form a chi ball every day for 10 minutes. Sounds silly, but I learned this from Master Sifu Ramses, who's a Hermetic trainer on YouTube. And he says that this is actually exercising all three bodies at the same time: the physical, mental, and emotional body. So you're kind of forming that space in you, and then also when you're doing the focus, you're focusing here, and you could feel your pineal gland start to crackle, and then you squeeze your perineum, bring energy up and around and down into the ball. Once that energy is kind of formed in a way where you feel like it's concentrated and nourished, walk through it. By walking through it, you could walk into that, and it kind of puts a spell onto your energy body. So you should put kind of like a positive intention into it. And then when you're moving energy in your body, just do the microcosmic orbit, which means picture the energy rising up as you inhale. Once it's at the top of the head, use your eyes to let it come over the top of the head as you exhale. Go all the way down to the bottom, and then have it circle inward, and then back up the spine. So it's like that. Okay, so up, back. When it comes down here, or up the back, down the front. Once it goes all the way to the bottom, it goes backwards a circle into the little spinal hole where the Satan's tail is, and then comes back up on the exhale. And then that's how you kind of move out energy. 90 days of that, 90 days of tantra, 90 days of, eating correctly to your temperament, whatever that is for you. And trying to be not, end with the ego, the pride, the narcissism. Like, we all have these little tendencies to, like, where we become self-absorbed, and everyone has a small tyrant or King Herod within. We all have our Pharaoh within. So, like, that's a part of nature, and that is to give us something to resist, which creates a friction inside. People that don't have a friction inside don't have any type of restrictions or any type of discipline, so they kind of end up going one way or the other. But a conscious individual has that inner friction that allows a fire or a chemical change to occur, which ignites the energy up. So now that we're just at the last 10 minutes, I like to just open it up. You guys can freely, let's all discuss and ask questions. And I love to learn from you guys as well. Everyone always has something wonderful to share. So thank you so much. And I think that we should just open it up now and have the weekly interaction time. And just, yep. If anyone has any questions too, I can answer them or go through any specific practices. So you feel like you're able to move that energy through that part? Wow. 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 Yeah, thanks for sharing. Hey, hey, how are you? Oh, thanks. Pore breathing, so important. And it's like a little. We do it as kids, and it's so magical, right? It like, does I mean, can you do that without even kind of feeling like really, like, isn't it just almost unbearable? Well, yeah, like, don't do you feel like it is that way? Like, do you feel like when you breathe, that you feel those sensations that feel kind of like it's like you're relaxing so much that it's almost kind of hard to? Oh, okay. Yeah. Yep. 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 Exactly. Yep. And I think one book that I think would help, I think it's called "The Mystery of the Golden Blossom" or and it's yeah, "The Mystery of the Golden Blossom." And I'm trying to remember this other one. Let me see if I can find it really quick. Okay. Oh no, I was just saying that you know how all of them they have that staff. That staff is the symbol for the spinal column, and then that staff is used as an extra transmuter. So you'll always see people that are increasing in transmutation. They'll have to have that extra staff because it takes away that energy and gives it another grounding source, like where people become so surged, they need that extra leverage, basically. Yeah, and it's like extra grounding support, and also that, how they're always holding it. That's just metaphor for your attention here in the center, like Kriya, like a Kriya yoga. Yeah, and then I think the book I found, if you guys want to research, it is the turning the light around is just observing the internal weather, essentially. So if you feel irritation, frustration, anger, or after you've already raged, look at the sky, your mind, and realize it's just a passing storm. So that's the ancient secret of the golden flower. The secret, and that is the book. I believe it was called The Secret of the Golden Flower, and it's always being able to turn around and clear your internal sky, to clear the clouds away, to still the water, to find your central sun. But you know what? People are disconnected and don't even believe they have that. So we all have the ability to help other people find it within them, as well as utilize what we have within us to start creating these changes within us. And then finally, we do transmute that creature. Finally, at the time of death, where we finally shed the human body like a snake sheds its skin, we're supposed to be entering into the next life. They want to trap you and trick you and think like, you know what? Yeah, you're gonna be a baby again in China or something. Like, yeah, probably not, dude. Probably going somewhere else. You got lessons to learn, things to do. You're not gonna stay. That's like a kid saying like, oh, I want to stay at mommy's house all till I'm 30, 40 years old, never leaving mom's house. Like, that's what they have as a spiritual immaturity.